You might already have heard of a fashion value chain. It is a chain of steps it takes to produce a fashion garment from farm or fiber production to closet and then collection and disposal. These steps are more or less similar with most of the products around us. Cars, building materials, food, books, furniture. And it's very similar with production of new products and recycled ones. In a fashion value chain, we recognize 5 main areas: raw materials, production, transport, consumption, and waste. Take an ordinary t-shirt or any other garment from your wardrobe and try to imagine the value chain, steps of its production from materials to your wardrobe and then to disposal. Consider all parts of it: fabrics, threads, labels, zippers, and buttons. Try to think with each step what kind of waste and pollution it might produce. Make a note of it. Write it down on paper or draw a picture, but feel free to make a proper mind map with all the colors of the rainbow. If you are not sure, write it down anyway, and if you don't know at all, never mind. We will explore it in this lesson. It might be surprising, but waste is not created only by the end of production's life. The moment an item becomes broken or damaged, or when we simply don't want it anymore, yes, in that moment it becomes a waste. Waste is created all the way from production through transport and packaging to our consumption. It's like with cooking. The waste is not only your uneaten omelette, but also eggshells from its preparation, as well as the pollution that is created by the CO2 used in electricity production by the cooker or even the dishwasher afterwards. Waste is not necessarily a bad thing, if it's reasonably managed. It can be reduced or reused as a source of material or energy for other activities. But to do that, we need to know where exactly it is created and why. We usually talk about 2 kinds of waste: pre-consumer and post-consumer. Pre-consumer waste is generated by textile and clothing manufacturers during any stage of the production of clothing. Pre-consumer waste includes textile scraps after the cutting of garment pieces, leftover textile samples, salvages, end-of-roll wastes, damaged materials, part finish or finished clothing, samples from the design and production department. You can read more in this link. All this is waste and pollution made before we even purchase our clothing. So, what's the post-consumer textile waste? Post-consumer waste is mostly waste discarded by individuals during and after using a garment. It includes waste created by care for the garment, such as its washing, before finally it is discarded and disposed of. The term textile waste is most often used with our discarded clothing, maybe because this is the most visible point in the value chain. Many of our unwanted garments become waste not because they are damaged or worn beyond repair, but simply because we don't want them. Microplastics released during washing and energy used to wash our clothes are other 2 big sources of pollution. What about unsold garments in shops? Where do they go? What's done with them? So-called dead stock. Unsold garments in shop is unsellable stock, which is a common practice, is damaged, burned or disposed of, so the brands can continue stocking with new trends. A considerable amount of clothing ends up in the global south as a commodity in the second-hand clothing business with significant impact on local society, health and environment. To explore more, read this article. Everywhere in value chain, pre- or post-consumer, we have these 2 main sources of waste and pollution. Transport between garment value chain points. Imagine all those tracks and ship containers traveling from farmers in India to weaving and dyeing in China and then to garment sewing in Bangladesh to be shipped to shops in Europe, then collected and shipped to disposal, just to show a very simple sample. Packing of partially made or finished fashion garments. Imagine the amount of plastic bags. Now, go back to the garment you picked from your wardrobe and revise your initial notes or drawing. Based on the knowledge you gained during this lesson, revise your initial notes or drawing, amend them, or add new sources of waste into your garment production. What did you change? What new information was added to your picture? And what was taken out of the picture? Now comes the hard part. Think of solutions how the waste and pollution could be reduced by you. Write it down or discuss in groups. Which part of the fashion value chain can we influence as consumers, customers the most, and how? How could we help reduce waste and pollution? What can we influence as citizens?